Some of you might have seen these around your neighborhood. These have gotten kind of an infamous reputation lately for being like a network of police snitch devices. This guy apparently bills himself as the inventor of putting a camera on things. That's kind of a red flag already. This kind of like DIY closed circuit TV kind of stuff has been around for as long as analog television cameras have been around. Oh yeah, they're totally copying Apple's aesthetic as much as possible, right? Designed by Ring in California, assembled in China. I wonder how much security each sticker adds. If you install one of these, of course, your data security and privacy is completely up to them and whatever they choose to do with your data. I wonder what the QR code says. And apparently that includes sharing it with all the local police officers who want it and giving them a map with all the Ring cameras on it and then letting them automatically request footage from your cameras and that kind of thing. Now we apparently have to say hello. Hi. Like, it seems to have a kernel of something kind of okay and useful in it, but then it's been sort of processed through the whole, like, Silicon Valley idea meat grinder until it's acceptable to all the capital interests, and that's what we've got here. It's just got a circuit board right there in the front. I would never actually spend money on one of these, but I got this as sort of an unwanted gift, so it's an excuse to take it apart and poke around at it, see what the hardware and software might be useful for, or see if there's some way that we can subvert it interestingly. There's a little breakout board. It's a 6-sided kind of star-shaped thing, which looks like a Torx with a bump in the center. I'm curious what this is about. Like, why are we putting a diode in parallel with the doorbell wiring? Oh no, I have a Ring-branded screwdriver. If your doorbell is digital, attach the diode. The 2 doorbell lugs here connect to groups of 3 pins. So 1 through 3 on J5. See that trace. And then this trace, 1 through 3 on J3. Is this supposed to be smiling at me? Ah, it comes with a USB cable. Comes with a masonry bit. A tiny level. Well, I'll have to send this over to Diode Zone. Oh yeah, and there was a second screw. So this kind of wedges it against the top of this slot. It's certainly possible this is power only. This is the least satisfying doorbell button I have ever pressed. Isn't the whole point of this thing to be a button? As much as I'm not into the large-scale surveillance state or anything, like as an individual, it's useful to have a way of like keeping an eye on more space than just what's right in front of me. But I don't want that going out to some random company that I don't trust. So yeah, I've got just a bunch of random brands of IP cameras here that don't necessarily have to be secure because they're isolated from the rest of the network and the rest of the internet. Oh, this is not working. It's quite possible that this metal is intended to bend a little bit, but that seems kind of weird. Okay. I'm guessing, I mean, this looks like the speaker down here. It looks like a fairly large speaker. So I guess that's what the slot down here was sort of a weather-resistant speaker outlet. Oh, and what is that? Is that the IR illuminator? I mean, maybe it's a light sensor and the IR LEDs are elsewhere, but that certainly could be the IR LED. Yeah, these screws are fairly stiff. Like the plastic is holding them pretty tightly, and the screw heads are tiny and flimsy. So I wouldn't be surprised if stripping these is fairly common. Oh, and these are definitely self-tappers. They're really pointy self-tappers. There we go. Oh, a big old battery. 5,000 milliamp hours. Gosh. Let's carefully disconnect that. It's the lifty kind, not the pull kind. All right. There are 3 stacked circuit boards that all look fairly thick. 16 pins. This is really spared no expense, huh? Like a flex rigid assembly just for this. Everything on the box says that they invented the wireless camera, and everything's, you know, because they were such a super genius and not because they got a pile of venture capital money. Yeah, lots of test points here. Oh, and this board's labeled 2016, gosh. If you came here for me to be nice to the Silicon Valley folks, I think you're on the wrong channel. That's a lot more electronics than I was expecting in here. These little insulating washers are kind of interesting, right? You think that was an afterthought? Or did they just really need that routing space and they figured an extra assembly step was worth it? Okay, let's get the wide view of all this stuff we just took apart. So here's the wall mount plate, which I think I can take this sticker off. It's got some rubberized stuff back here to help it stick onto the wall, which is interesting. I feel like every product I've had that has overmolded rubber deteriorates within a couple years, so I wonder if this just leaves like a greasy stain on the front of your house when you finally take it off. This back is indeed made of some fairly sturdy plastic. It's pretty thin, but it feels like it's like glass filled or something based on just how stiff it is. So this is the front. We've got the squishy, uncomfortable button in the middle. I'm not sure if there's much of a point to getting that off. So then that was the lens for the light sensor. There's the microphone opening. A bit of rubber just to keep things steady, I guess. And then our theory is that this entire piece is IR transparent because there are IR LEDs, 3 on this side, 3 on that side, and then 3 more big ones on the top with Fresnel lenses molded in to another piece that's glued in. Let's see if this will come off. That feels very... Oh, maybe not. Oh, I think they're press fit. Great. Oh, are these passive IR motion sensors? That's a totally different kettle of fish. That explains why there were so many IR LEDs. Oh yeah, that's a good point. 2 thicknesses of stiffeners. This thickness over here, and then several times that, which that must increase the manufacturing cost a lot. This does not seem like an extremely cost-optimized product. It seems like the typical Silicon Valley thing where they make it like as Apple-y and pretty and consumer, polished as they can, and then they worry about cost down, and then they fail at cost down, and then they have to sell data to make up the money that they lost. Just Silicon Valley stuff. Gosh, these sensors are interesting. Is that like a germanium window, maybe? It's got a weird lensy bracket. The lens's job is to convert movement into changes in intensity. So if you have just like a warm body moving in front of this, the IR sensor would have a high-pass filter to look for those intensity variations. All right, so there's the camera board with the IR illuminator and the IR filter. There's the bottom board, which has the button and the LEDs in the middle, LED driver, speakers, microphone. Not much on the back except for a connector and the soldering for the microphone. And then this is the topmost board, which seems to be all the processing. Is that top set of pins not even in use? So there's an IR filter that this would be able to insert or remove depending on whether it's in night mode or day mode. Conformal coding's always in the way, yeah. Oh, this is the camera controller. This is OmniVision, OV00788. So some of these might be like LDO regulators. That looks like a switching regulator over here, like U1 and that inductor. So we've got 2 4-pin debug headers and then a 5-pin debug header, or rather a 3 and a 2. That's interesting. So the camera processor, RAM, and then mystery. We might need to look closer. Oh, that's flash memory. But that one was the one that didn't have much of a label. I don't see a lot of engraving. I don't think that's doing anything. I think that needs a knife. This might just not have a label on it. I don't see any engraving on that, though. It's certainly possible this is like a custom power management IC for the OmniVision chip. That must have been hand soldered, right? And then this is an interesting jig that they've got for keeping the LEDs at the right angles. Ooh, is that an almost solder bridge? It's a little hard to tell what's flux residue and what's solder residue, but that... Ugh. It must have passed quality control, but doesn't look good, does it? Yeah, that's another 25Q32. What is that little 4-pinner? That's kind of cute. YE7M. I think U10 over here is connected to the coil. What is that frequency? 24 megahertz. What are these transistors? These might be the LED transistors. And then I would assume these are linear regulators, but that's mostly a guess. It seems plausible that this entire board is just the camera. For power management, it certainly seems like they'd want to just like completely turn this off whenever they're not actually filming. So I think this bottom board is just mic, speakers, and LEDs and buttons. Oh, it is rubber. Okay. So I think the reason that's rubber is so that you can't break the tactile switch by pushing on this too hard. So there's some illumination around the doorbell button. There's the awful tactile switch. It feels better without the rubber thing over it. Is this probably an LED driver? NXP P9685. Ooh, a metal standoff. The other standoffs were plastic. Oh, that's kind of cool. Some side fill. That's hard. I was expecting that to be rubbery, but that's like hard resin. There's the mic. So the microphone seems to go to the connector directly, so the audio is on a separate board. Oh, that's interesting. They're not soldered. Oh, they're glued on. They're glued on kind of in opposition to the tension of these springs. All right. So that means the front board is a camera. The back board is buttons and LEDs and speaker and mic. So pretty much everything else has to be on this top board. We have 2 flash memories, U7 here and U22. Bigger DC to DC converter. Big transistor. Fuse. Oh, that says D1. I wonder if that's a bridge rectifier. And then I'm guessing this optocoupler might be how it actually actuates the doorbell. Maybe that's a read relay. That's an MSP430 microcontroller. 16-bit. Ooh, this has FRAM, non-volatile memory. That's pretty cool. This is probably the chip that stays on all the time to tell all the higher power chips when to wake up and to manage the hardware involved in actually doing that. Up to 16K of memory. Some debug headers. Several debug headers. What is that little U25? That's pretty cute. So I think they would be taking the range pretty seriously on the Wi-Fi because they're transmitting video like from outside your house to somewhere inside your house. So then the antenna is a PCB antenna. Sort of a weird design, huh? Oh, that looks hand soldered. Still all fluxy. I wonder if they designed it for a specific like radiation pattern. So, and then that's interesting. They've got the ground from the coax, but then they've also got this pad to beef up the ground even more. Some hot snot and a UFL connector. And then this is the, TI Wi-Fi chip, CC3200. So this thing has at least 3 processors. It's got the camera processor, it's got this Wi-Fi system on chip, and it's got the MSP430. So 80 megahertz, 256K, drivers and ROM. There's a dedicated ARM just for the Wi-Fi with a full IP offload engine, security engine, built-in camera interface. So probably designed for exactly this kind of product. Wi-Fi certified. Oh, let's try putting it back together and seeing if we can talk to it. A lot of board stacking. If it really wants the battery, we can give it the battery, but I'd like to not give it the battery. Okay, so if I plug in the USB power, we should, after a few seconds, see a blue light flashing on the other side. Oh, yeah, we're right away. There's a lot more blue light coming out without the case assembled, huh? The Wi-Fi access point and this Raspberry Pi are on the same Ethernet switch, but the Wi-Fi access point is set to tag all of the Wi-Fi traffic, so that shows up on this interface and doesn't have direct access to the rest of the network. And it's set up to do NAT, allowing internet access, but firewalling off everything else. So let's just start a new log. So it's talking to some Apple servers and some AWS and, just whatever this thing does on its own. Wants notifications. Sure, this isn't a device I care about. I have to create an account before doing anything else. Bug zone. So it sent me an email. Hi neighbor, verify your email. Thank you for being a neighbor. That's kind of creepy. No! Oh, you want my location. A home address. So set up a Ring device. All right, doorbell. Okay, it wants the QR code. Where would you like to set up your doorbell? Sure, Washington, D.C. Okay, now it wants the orange button. So that changed the light pattern. So that setup button switched the Wi-Fi over to a separate ad hoc network. Okay, now it's asking me which Wi-Fi network. So yeah, that was a DHCP request. And now it's advertising features. This is available to you by default. The text here. It's like from an alien world. But okay, setup complete. The iPad is still talking to AWS. Oh, my Ring doorbell is updating. Glad I'm packet capturing this. The flashing is totally not in sync. I'm disappointed. Does this keep making noises? Oh great, now I'm getting notifications for Washington DC gunshots. That's not what I wanted. Is this the preferred user experience? Is like before you've even seen a picture from your camera, it's like warning you about crime? What does the White House's front door look like? I don't know. Let's say no. Oh, it wants me to watch a video. Is this going to trigger a copyright strike if I play it? Let's skip the video and just say I've installed the doorbell. Internet connection test. Bring your Ring doorbell to the place you plan to install it and then tap Start Test. Incoming packets. That's interesting. Optimize motion settings. Reticulating splines. You already asked me about the steps or hill. Jeez. No. That's interesting. I wonder if the motion sensors have analog outputs. Let's pick the middle one, 15 to 30 feet. This is probably actually image processing motion detection that it uses on top of the PIR sensors. So let's skip that for now. Can we turn on a live view though? Is it even going to try to send the video directly, or is it going to bounce it through the cloud first? So the iPad's talking to some CloudFront server and some Amazon server. Anyway, this doesn't seem to be especially working. Let's try getting live view without being in this motion UI maybe. How often should it capture motion? Standard? Sure. So much setup before you even get a picture out of this thing. Let's, how do I not learn more? Trying to be a security system. Defaults. Just give me the defaults. Oh man, I only have 29 days left of video recording. Go live. So much tapping to get a picture, jeez. I think I might try resetting it. Maybe reseating these connectors in case I jostled something. It seems to be connecting. Is it streaming video? That looks like it might be a video stream. Let's try again. Oh, Ring would like the microphone. Interesting, sure. Yay, it's a video. It is bouncing off of AWS. It's probably convenient for them to implement, but it also makes it trivial for them to just get all the data. Like they can just record all the video all the time, which they would sell you as a service, but is also maybe something you don't want them doing. Yeah, these are UDP packets. I wonder if they're encrypted. They may or may not be. And then just like latency, it seems not bad. I've also got a really fast internet connection here. What else can we play with? Oh yeah, so we can go back in the recording and just get the video right off of Amazon. Video is processing. I don't know why it's flashing blue now. Let's try audio. Hello. And then other direction. Hello. Oh, maybe let's look at these packets a bit and see what they look like. Oh. There's motion at my front door. Oh, this is going to be annoying. Alright, so here we are with Wireshark. So there's a lot we could look at. I think the first thing I want to look at is just to kind of poke at some of these. Whoa, is that RTP? Huh. Oh, we've got stun. That's interesting. We can watch the entire boot up at this point. And, oh, no, it also did a firmware update, so we're going to see the firmware in here somewhere, presumably in a TLS stream. So we've got DHCP, getting the address. It's getting a time from NTP. It's just going right to 2.pool.ntp.org. That's a little uncouth. WU? Is that like something update, web update or something? And we just launched right into TLS here. You know, because this is web security working basically as it's intended to, we would have to do some invasive stuff in the firmware to actually decrypt this connection. Oh, this is the performance test, iperf.ring.com. And it's just got some repeating digits as the performance test data. That's fun. And presumably we're going to have some more application traffic. Ooh, it's a wildcard certificate for star.ring.com. Really? This is not defense in depth. This is they terminate all their TLS at one point, or they have the same certificate on all their servers, neither of which is especially great. It's just more encrypted application data. More back and forth, though. So this might be a string of HTTP requests, or like a WebSocket or something. WU might not be anything to do with updates. It might just be a general application server. It might be specific to the region we're in. RTP. Okay, what's going on with this? Is this actually RTP? Oh, it's SIP. There's a SIP server happening. SIP is a pretty old school and pretty standard IP telephony protocol that's used. It's session initiation protocol, so it's initiating a session, and then RTP is the real-time protocol, or real-time transport, something like that. Call ID. Okay, so we're requesting an invite. Can I do reverse DNS on this server? I mean, the reverse DNS is almost certainly going to be blah, 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 Amazon AWS compute. Yeah, what do you know? It's an Amazon server, just like everything else in their infrastructure. All right, here's all the DNSs. So we've got 2.pool.ntp.org, wu.ring.com, iperf.ring.com, wu again. Firmware snapshots, maybe. FW snaps. RSS DPD service. Is that a telephony thing? FW. WU might be US West. That might just be the zone. Oh, and this is Cloudflare, not Amazon. I wonder if WU has static web resources. Yeah, it's interesting that this is pretty standard internet telephony stuff so far. I mean, I'm curious what the video packets actually look like. Like, they might just be weird and encrypted and non-standard, but they might also just be H.264, you know? These are very short calls. I don't know if these are right. Why are they sending plain text over SIP? This is also weird. Hi, Zero, cool. Job, drop table servers. Yeah, the user agent on the Ring side is this device /2.18 SIP, but their server's user agent is this Zero cool drop tables thing. Oh, event equals refresh. So they're using this kind of like you might use WebSockets to send asynchronous events, I guess. I mean, I'm sure they're also using it to place calls, but it's interesting seeing them use that infrastructure for just signaling like this too. And so that happened after the firmware update, I guess, and whatever this RSS DPD service thing is. Another event equals refresh. Oh, event equals answered. Interesting. There's a bunch of this because this is the actual payload data. Application SDP. Oh, session description protocol. Thanks, Wireshark. You know more about this than I do. The session name is Ding. Claims to be H.264. Wonder if the video is encrypted. DPDV3. Is that a library that they used here? Yeah, I don't know if that's something they made or something they bought or something they used that's open source or what. Subject Ding. Clip length? Weird. And then we get an RTP thing. So RTP map. Oh, is PCMU the audio? This ITU G7.11, I think that's an audio codec. It seems to have some stuff at the very beginning, which could just be a smaller quantity of data in the buffer, or it could be something different, like a header or like keys or something. So something up here is a little bit different, but then once it really gets going, we've got kind of a consistent stream here of 1336, 1331 kind of size packets, 1330 for video, and then little packets with audio, like 214, released in 1972 at 64 kilobits per second. I wonder if Wireshark can try extracting this data, since it seems to be mostly standards compliant at this point. And then it looks like the call ends pretty normally. Bye. Okay, this is iPad traffic now. Bunch of UDP junk, TLS. Similar packet sizes going on here. Like you can kind of see the video and the audio packets. Yeah, let's actually look at this server, because we are speaking UDP, stun, and TCP to that same server. H.264? Oh, that's the same server that the SIP call was going over. So they at least aren't sending it from point to point in Amazon. Like, my iPad and the Ring were both connecting to the same Amazon server at least. But yeah, Wireshark is just happily taking apart H.264 here. Oh. Setup frame, number of packets, time span. So we have 2 audio streams, 1 in each direction, and then 2 video streams. Looks like one in one direction and the other one seems to be kind of empty. I don't know if this knows how to decode the video, but let's try decoding the audio maybe. Maybe it is encrypted. So that is like the packet unit that H.264 uses, but you know, they don't want to call it a packet because everything else is called a packet. Gosh, I wonder how many hoops you'd have to jump through to emulate their server side so that you could run one of these doorbells without the service. I mean, it's still not a very good camera. It's doing more work now. Phase 1. This offset here seems to sometimes be going out of bounds, which might mean that the format is not what this expects. Or maybe that was just some weird part of the stream at the beginning? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is actually just like a non-standard extension to H.264 or if it's decoding it incorrectly. But if I'm reading this right, we're getting null types of like 27, 25, 30, which are in this undefined area. This doesn't seem correct. Yeah, maybe this is encrypted. It's not really uncommon to find systems where a vendor will take just a pretty normal H.264 transport and then just stick encryption in there at kind of about this level. My best guess right now is that that's what's going on here, that maybe these first couple of packets that seem to be kind of weird and malformed, according to Wireshark, are actually setting up the encryption somehow. This DA78 just seems way too small for that. I don't know what this is. This next one seems like it might be big enough to be like a key or part of a key or something. And then this could be, that's like too small to be a key, but it could be like some kind of sequence number or mode thing or header. And then this is almost certainly an actual ACE264 packet, but I think it's encrypted. It's interesting that you still get some smaller packet sizes though. I wonder what that's about. Are these just being fragmented maybe? Yeah, like that top bit is supposed to be an error flag and it's just going all over the place. Like I don't think that's being used the way the spec intends it. I think that's modified or obfuscated or encrypted. I think I need to learn some more about H.264 and maybe RTP to get a bunch further with this, but it's been interesting at least poking around to this depth. Yeah, well maybe I'll wrap it up for today and call it a stream. I hope that was interesting. We started off kind of looking at the outside of the box and then looking through the layers of circuit boards and going through the setup procedure, and then kind of ended things out by actually taking a look at the packets and trying to see what the protocols it uses look like. Well, thanks so much for hanging out. I'll be back soon with some more interesting content, and I will see you next time. Meow.